Hi, welcome to Chad's Silversmithing. Before we get too far into the video, if you wouldn't mind hitting the like button, that really helps to get my channel promoted, and I appreciate it. I also love it when people leave comments. If you have questions, suggestions for videos, constructive criticism, if you want to tell me how you do things, or in this case, today we're doing some sawing tips. If you have some tips that you have that other people could benefit from, I'd love it if you'd leave them in the comment section. So, before we get too far in, I wanted to thank some groups of people. My patrons over on Patreon are my core group of supporters, and I truly appreciate the great community that they've built over there. It's a nice big group of people with lots of knowledge, and some beginners, some more experienced, and a great place for them to share ideas and strategies. So thank you for creating that nice space over there, and also thank you for the financial support. It really makes it worth my while. The other group is my YouTube subscribers, and we just passed 5,000. No, we just passed 15,800 subscribers, I think, if I'm remembering right. And that's amazing and wonderful, and I truly appreciate all of the people who've subscribed. It's really nice when you leave comments and I find out that I've done something that helps you out in your silversmithing journey. So thank you for those comments. They're really moving sometimes. And I do appreciate also the financial support. The super thanks and the buy me a coffees really help with the cost of materials, which is pretty high right now. So thanks for that. So the focus of today's video is going to be some sawing tips that I wanted to give, especially to beginners, because when I was a beginner, I was terrible at sawing, and there's a number of reasons for that, and I was mostly self-taught as far as that, and so until recently I didn't have a lot of skills at sawing, and I'm still learning, but I wanted to share the few tips that I've learned from people over the recent years that I think are useful and valuable for getting better at sawing. So we'll be covering a number of different things. Let's get started on these tips. This is one of my design idea books. You can get these on my merch store. I have a number of different styles. I also have some new aprons over there if you want to check those out. We came up with some designs for aprons with some sayings on them, and especially for polishing, I find an apron very useful when I'm silversmithing. So these things, though, have the recent ones have some charts and other information on the back of the various types. This one has fractions of an inch to decimals to millimeter conversion tables, which I find super useful. And in recent years, I started drawing up all my designs in one of these, not only so I have a better idea going into my project, what I'm doing. Oops, I did that upside down today. But also because it helps me to keep things kind of straight. It has a little grid pattern in the background that helps me to draw better. So here's some things I want to talk about today. Some of the basic ideas that I wanted to cover were the tightness of your saw blade, getting started on cuts, dealing with cutting thin sheet, sawing precisely without breaking blades, when you need to cut multiple pieces, a trick to cutting multiple pieces that are exactly the same, and making sharp corners when you're cutting, and then how to modify your bench pin to suit your own personal needs. And there's no real one way to do that. It just kind of depends on what your particular needs are for the projects that you're doing. But I make my own bench pins usually just out of scrap wood, and they last for a long time. Then it doesn't cost very much to make a new one. So we'll cover some of those topics, so let's get started on those. So this one may be obvious to a lot of people, but it wasn't obvious to me when I first started. And I had a lot of problems getting my cut started on things because it would chatter around and not start where I wanted. And there's an easy solution for that. If you cut yourself a slot that's straight up and down in your bench pin like this, then you can hold your piece of metal there, and the bench pin itself will guide your blade to get it started. And then you can saw away without having to have a problem getting it starting where you want it to start. So this brings up another good thing to talk about. So one of the other issues that happens, especially when you're using thin sheet like this is 26 gauge sterling, is if you start right from the edge here, it's so flimsy that it'll start bending on you as you're cutting. And so I have found that if you drill a hole and keep the edge intact here, so I'm not cutting in from the edge, and start it inside, then you'll have a lot more luck keeping it from doing the bending like this on you when you're trying to cut. And it makes it much easier to get things to go where you want them to go. So let's drill a little hole in this, and then we'll go ahead and start the saw inside of the metal rather than coming right in from the edge. Okay, so if you can see that, I have a hole drilled there now, and if I feed it through there, again, make sure my blade is pretty tight. If you want, you can use a little bit of lubrication. That's always a useful thing to do. There's a lot of different kinds of this stuff on the market. This is called blade butter. See how I'm not having that bending over that was happening when I was doing the heart there? While I'm doing this, let's talk about another thing. I have a tendency to get impatient, and so I tend to push too hard and force the saw. So I have found over time, if I just kind of relax my grip on the handle and don't put a lot of forward pressure, and just let the blade do the cutting, I have a lot better results. So, but I have to resist that urge to force it because I want to get done. Probably because sawing has never been one of my favorite things. So. There we go, and you get a pretty neat cutout. Much better than I would have done when I first started. So, if you have a situation where you want to cut out two things that are identical, rather than doing them individually, sometimes you can stack the pieces on top of each other and secure them together. Now I'm going to use some masking tape to do this, and then we'll cut it out at the same time, and you usually get pretty close to exact copies then, and that's kind of nice if you're trying to keep things symmetrical. I have these two pieces of copper here. I'm going to kind of put a little tape between them just to kind of keep them from shifting much, like that. And then I'm going to wrap them in tape. And I want to try to get them as tight as I can. So. Okay, and I think I'm going to drill this one like I did before. Now the question will be whether Chad can do this without breaking his blade. So. Another thing while I'm thinking of it, this is something that took me a while to learn, is I have better luck if rather than turning the saw blade, I turn the piece. So when I turn the saw blade, I have a tendency to twist the blade in the frame, and then it has more of a tendency to break. When you're trying to make a sharp corner, don't put any forward pressure, just saw straight up and down until it clears a little pathway for you to continue going in a different direction. I can't take credit for these strategies because over the past couple of years, being as I wasn't a big sawer or piercer, I didn't do a lot of sawing, and mostly because I wasn't very good at it. And so over the past 2 or 3 years doing the YouTube channel, I have numerous people who are much better at sawing than me give me all sorts of great advice. And so I owe these kind of tips to all the kind people on my Patreon and my YouTube channel. So thank you for teaching me all these wonderful things, and I wanted to share them with others who are starting out with this part of it. So we should have 2 pretty good symmetrical hearts now. At least close enough to where with a little filing or a little rotary tool work, you can get them to be very nice. So. Finally, one of the last and most important things that I think you can do is to modify your bench pin to suit your needs. Now, I generally, when I wear one out, I'll go ahead and make myself a new one out of some scrap wood. This one actually was 2 pieces of that were originally part of an oak wine rack, and I glued them together and I cut them into the shape of a bench pin. And it's just got a C-clamp holding it on here. And you can buy nice fancy ones, those are great, but don't be afraid to make changes in them to suit your needs. Now, a couple of things that I've done to this one are, in order to cut tubing easily, I don't know if you can see it, but I've drilled various different holes on the back side of on the outside edge of this here, and that is so I can and this happens in particular with tubing, but you could also use it just for round wire if you wanted to, or even square wire. If you're trying to do it like this, once you cut it, get it through the outside edge of the silver and you start cutting through both sides at once, then it starts to become hard to cut. So if you have a little slot or a hole in here that you can set it in, then you can just line it up there. It's a heck of a lot easier to cut that out. So, and like I said, you can do different size holes for different pieces, or different size holes for different gauges of tubing. So that makes it much more convenient to cut tubing. Another thing that I do is I put some little, I use ball burrs to cut little dimples into here. And occasionally I need to flatten the backside of a ball. And this isn't sawing, but this is using my bench block for filing. And so if I have a little divot in there like that, it makes it easier to hold it in place while you get that flat edge started. Then you can give yourself a nice flat bottom on little silver balls like that, so they solder down nicely if they don't have a nice bottom. And like I said, you could do different
different sizes here, like that. They need to be deep enough to where when you push on them that the ball stays in there and it doesn't just fall off. And so you'll have to play with the depth of those, but that's a handy thing to do. Something that I've decided to do to modify my next bench pin is I've noticed that this hole that I cut here and this slot here are much too wide for some pieces that I'm doing when I'm doing really fine work. And so I might do it the same this way, but also put one in going this way with a smaller hole so that I have a little bit tighter support system for my piece of silver that I'm cutting. So it doesn't have to always look like this. It can have, you know, other cutouts going in different directions. And as you can see, I also use it to drill things in. Now for me, if I'm drilling a piece of sheet or something, you can tell I do it mostly right here. I'll just clamp it in there and then tighten it back down. You know, use my center punch and then drill into the block here. So it's another good surface for doing that, and it keeps it in place if you do that. So that's some of the things that I've learned over the past 2 or 3 years from various kind people who've told me some tricks and different ways to improve my sawing skills. I'm curious what kind of tricks you have if you've been doing this for a while, and what you've learned from other people about how to be better at sawing, because from the get-go I wasn't terribly good at it, and I finally learned some tricks that helped me to get better at it. So tell me what you do that makes it easier for you, or some hacks that you have that make it easier to saw. I'd love to hear it in the comments section.
Well, that was some tips for improving your sawing skills for beginners. If you enjoyed that video, make sure to hit the like button before you leave. I'd love it if you take a moment and go visit the rest of my channel. My main channel page, you'll find, has over 400 videos on it. So I've been making 3 videos a week for about 3 years now, and that adds up pretty quickly. So there's tons of content there, both for beginners, some people who are in the middle range, and then for advanced people. I think there's lots of ideas for projects. There's some skill videos. There's just quite a bit of content there to choose from. So go over there, take a moment and check out some of the videos. Come back, subscribe to my channel. I'd love to have you as a subscriber. Make sure to hit the video description down below. There's some important links in there. If you want to get my ebook, which is a guide to 2023's videos, including extra information about each, that's a great way to support the channel and a very useful way to have access to a whole bunch of tutorials. There's a link for that. There's a link to my merch store if you want to get yourself one of those design idea books that I showed you at the beginning. And there's a link to Patreon if you want to check out that community over there. So thanks again for watching. Take care. Happy silversmithing.